Welcome to this week's edition of Coach Prep. Coach Don and I are working remote this week. We've got a fun topic for you. We're going to talk about anticipation, specifically for defensive players, but some information that can be readily available to players if they're thinking about things as they're getting ready to happen. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. If you're in a position where you can help us, we would love for you to become a patron. We've had a loyal group of patrons that have been with us for a long time. We would love to see that number grow. We're talking about $5, $10, or $20 a month. If you're in a position where you can help us, we definitely need more people to come on board. So if you want to see the podcast continue to grow and thrive, please consider becoming a patron. Also, we've got some sponsorship opportunities. So if you have a business that's somehow affiliated with the world of fast pitch and you want to come on board as a sponsor, we would certainly love to talk to you about that opportunity as well. So, Don, when we talk about anticipation, there's one of the things that younger players especially, but I think players of all ages, we talk about softball IQ and things like that, but this is a very specific skill that I think we can do a much better job as coaches helping our players understand, take advantage of some information that's readily available to them if they're just willing to look for it and pay attention to it.
No, Tori, I think it's a great topic. And again, it's what's going to separate some of our pretty good players from our really good players. First thing that needs to happen is, as coaches and parents, that we express or share with them the idea that certain pitches, if they're hit properly, are going to go to certain locations. So depending on where I'm playing on the defensive side of things, if we've got a right-handed hitter up and we've got an outside pitch that's been called, that I would know the most prepared to move in the direction that that ball should be hit. We know as we get older, too, that our pitches are going to be a lot more accurate. They're going to hit their spots more often. What should happen will happen more often as we get older. When we're younger, some of these things that we talk about, we call an outside pitch, but they happen to throw it inside. That stuff is going to happen. But for the most part, if everybody does what they're supposed to, it should give us an advantage if we know, where the pitch location is and what direction I should be shading or anticipating moving to first.
I think that that's an important piece of information. I think it's something that we want to get our coaches much more in tune with and much more aggressive in teaching that to their players. Obviously, at the very youngest ages, when a pitcher throws a pitch, we're not always sure that it's going to go where it's supposed to go. But even in that circumstance, when you're on defense and you're watching the pitch approach home plate, you have a pretty clear picture in your mind of where it's going. So even if you know it's supposed to be an outside pitch, and it's not 100% sure that that pitcher is going to throw it there, when you see it going outside, that should already set you up to get that little bit of a head start, that little bit of a jump that's going to help you maybe get to a few more balls. And the reason this becomes so important is the difference between making a play and not making a play in some cases is inches. And if we're doing a really good job of anticipating, we might be able to cover more feet, or in some cases, many, many feet, extra range and extra space to cover if we're doing a better job with it. So I think kind of clean this up a little bit. Obviously, if we divide the plate into halves, so the inside half and the outside half, typically that's already going to be a pretty good indicator and a pretty good place to start for our defenders. When they see the ball going to the outside part of the plate, quite often it's going to be hit to the opposite field of where that hitter is standing. So again, as you said, right-handed hitter, an outside pitch is probably going to the right side more often than not. For a left-handed hitter, a pitch that's outside is going to the left side of the field more often than not. And a pitch that's inside doing the opposite. For that left-handed hitter, that inside pitch should be going to the right side of the field. And so again, it's not rocket science, but it's something that I think watching a lot of softball, that a lot of players are just not good at it. Now, maybe they're just being lazy. Maybe they're not working as hard on it as they should. But I also see a lot of kids that just don't seem to have the wherewithal to know that there's information that they could be using to really give them a big leg up on playing better defense.
When we played at the university and when we would be recruiting kids, that you can watch a defensive player and see what type of jump they get. And there are times when kids that aren't as quick as others on the field just seem to get to everything. They seem to be moving before it happens. They seem to almost have a really good read on, where they need to be moving before the ball's even struck. To me, that's really exciting because those kids have been working at it. Those kids are thinking about it, and they're just reacting and moving and making plays that other kids aren't going to make. Again, they don't have to be the fastest kids on the team to be the best anticipating players that that we've got. So whether you're the fastest kid or not the quickest kid on the team, you can work on these skills and be extremely impressive, when people are watching you play defense. It's a real thing, and it's an advantage for those that are going to take advantage of it. And just trying to react to what you see at the plate, you're going to do fine, but you're going to do a lot better if you're reading and moving and, making this part of your preparation for the ball to be hit.
And one of the things I talk with the players about all the time from a hitting perspective, but it's even more exaggerated on the defense perspective. If you're trying to go someplace, if you're going to get in your car and drive, and your goal is to get there as quickly as possible, do you want to go in a straight line, or do you want to wander around a little bit? Do you want to detour and go take all the back roads, or do you want to just get on the right road and go right where you're supposed to go? And I think that where anticipation really pays off for a defensive player is it avoids any kind of detours. It avoids them going in the wrong direction. It keeps them on target to get to where they're supposed to go as fast as they possibly can. And Don, your point about how it doesn't have to be the fastest player, I've talked about Jennifer Markham, who played for me when I was coaching at Tennessee Tech, and ended up making herself into the best center fielder I ever coached, bar none, and had never played outfield until she got to college. She had been a catcher her whole life. But she also, I think, having been a catcher her whole life, understood that when the pitch is outside, it's going to probably get hit here. If the pitch is inside, it's probably going to get hit there. And she then carried that with her when she went to the outfield. Being in center field, she knew where the pitch was supposed to go, but she also could see where it was really going. And dozens of times in her career that she caught balls at kids that were a lot faster than her, that had a lot more experience in the outfield than her, would have never come close to, because she was so good at anticipating and getting that great jump. Now, she was a good athlete, but where it paid off for her was getting balls that were ESPN top 10, like, oh my God, I can't believe she caught that kind of plays. And so I think that's what, the potential benefit is out there. So coaches, it's on you. We need to talk about it with our players more. We need to train them better. We need to set up situations in practice, even if it's hitting off a tee, where the ball's on the outside part of the plate. When it gets hit, here's what it looks like. Here's the angle that it comes off the bat, and that's going to help our players get that much better of a jump and be that much quicker to the ball in all situations. And obviously, we'd all be a whole lot happier with that.
Absolutely. Tori, drop balls are going to be probably hit on the ground. Rise balls are going to be hit in the air. Change ups, are going to be the bloopers. If everybody does what they're supposed to and it's a good change up, they're going to be poking and reaching at it. They're not going to be striking it hard. All those things can be a benefit. And if it saves a game, or, if we're playing a group that's very close and similar to our skill level, all these little tiny things are going to add up to us having an advantage on game day. So we got to, like you said.
Over the course of the season, a whole lot more wins than we would have had otherwise. So coaches, let's start sharing that information, and let's make sure that we do a good job of helping our players get as much of an opportunity to be successful as we possibly can. So that's going to wrap up this episode of Coach Prep. Please make sure you reach out to us at everythingfastpitch@gmail.com or fastpitchprep@gmail.com with questions, comments, ideas, or topics. Make sure you go to the fastpitchprep.com website. That's where you can order your Square Cuts training discs. You also have access to the YouTube channel and the blog post. There's a ton of information on fastpitchprep.com. And please become a patron. Go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch and help support the podcast moving forward. So for Coach Don McKinley, our producer Stan Lewis, this is Coach Tori. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.